Jacksonville, Duval. I gotta go and we gotta roll. What is cool and what's going on? You got the community, you got Duval. I guess I'm doing the opera version. Liam Cohen's got his own way. I like Liam Cohen. It's gonna be an interesting situation how everything figures out here. But we're gonna go through this roster. Oh, we gotta talk about it. What do they still need to do? And we're gonna get into a 7-round mock draft. But first off, let's go through this roster. Get this offensive line. Their starters are in place. Now, at the same time, do I say that they've got a true stud in this room right now? No, but there's a lot of talent. And I would say generally there's upside. And also there is a very reasonable expectation that this offensive line should be able to protect Trevor Lawrence. I do like Robert Hainsey. I love that sign. I think that is a really sneaky and also not just sneaky and stealthy, but going to be a good player for them and somebody that is going to be way better long-term viability for this football team under that contract. It's a very fair deal as well. Robert Hainsey comes over with Liam Cohen, who basically, look, when he got his chances, especially go back to that Saints game, you say, oh, Saints defensive line is not great, and I respect that, I understand, but at the same time, like, he was kicking butt, and he was really good in that game, so when he got his opportunities, he made the most of them. I just kind of want to throw that out there because I've been itching to talk about Robert Hainsey. I think he's a really good football player and has the potential to be a really good center. Now, in terms of what are the needs here, you just really need to add some more depth onto this interior of the offensive line, especially. Tackle-wise, they've got a lot of good depth. I will say that. Like, Fred Johnson was a good swing tackle for the Eagles this season. Chiduma Adoga, if he can stay healthy, is a good swing tackle that can play left and right side. Javon Foster has some developmental upside to be a good swing tackle. Cole Van Layden, not bad either. So in general, like, they've got good depth. And also with Adoga and Foster both being under contract, I believe Layden's probably like a restricted or something next season. You got your two stars, Antoine Harrison and Walker Little, both under contract as well going into 2026. So this looks like a pretty solid room. Maybe do they have an elite tackle in this room at this moment? No, but Walker Little, Anton Harrison, both have the talent to be very good football players. And then you look on the interior, this is, like I said, just the main area that I would focus draft-wise is finding some more depth. Cooper Hodges, I know he's got some talent. They love him there. And somebody that I do think could be a really good backup, Luke Fortner. This could be his last season for this football team. So getting a guy who can play guard/developmental center for this team just in case Robert Hainsey does not work out. You need to have some sort of developmental pipeline here. This could be 1 to 2 draft picks very easily. Also got to mention Patrick McCarry. A good signing there, ever versatile, can also play swing tackle for them. Ezra Cleveland locking down one of those guard positions. Very solid offensive line. Not elite, but solid. It's going to get the job done. They just need to improve the depth on the interior. And I will say, Cole Van Layden could also play on the inside, so that gives him some. Same thing with Kuchinu and Odoga. But let's go on to the wide receiver and the tight end room here. And it starts off with Brian Thomas. You're good to go with your number one, right? I think he was the best, or one of the best deep threats in the NFL as a rookie. And I will say this, Trevor Lawrence has an unbelievable deep ball. He has just got that float, that touch, and Brian Thomas winning over the top consistently. It was a nightmare for defenses. Now, if they could be more consistent throwing over the middle of the field and in short ranges, then this offense could take to the next steps, the next level, chain moving consistency like that. But that right now has been a big Achilles heel for this offense. And that's why I'm saying they still need to add to this wide receiving room. So I'm going to be looking at adding another weapon. I mean, Parker Washington deserves a chance to get a starting role, and he wasn't bad, and he's been solid for them. However, he has also been a little injury prone too. So I want to make sure we add in some sort of help, more competition in this room. It is a big priority for me. I think it's a day 2 type of priority, something they can address there, and at least finding some more depth, because to my eyes, Donnie Brown, Gabe Davis are going to be competing for that outside spot next to Brian Thomas, or on the opposite side of Brian Thomas, should I say. So those, you kind of have some sort of competition with Brown and Davis. Brown, you can say, well, it's a little expensive. I mean, he did play really good down the stretch there for the Commanders. He was really him and Scary Terry were vibing out. Donnie Brown, within his own right, is a deep threat. And we talked about Trevor Lawrence have one of the best deep balls. So schematically wise, it's a good fit. And I understand why they're giving him the money and trying to bring him onto the football team. However, as I mentioned before, I still think they need to add one more weapon in here. I don't feel like overly confident at the moment. Now, tight end, I'm a lot more confident in Brenton Strange than maybe a lot. I think Brenton Strange has the potential to be a top 10 tight end. I've watched a lot of Brenton Strange, and if you're in those fantasy leagues and all those sort of things, all I can say is keep a watch out on Brenton Strange. I'm a huge fan. I think he could be a very good football player in due time. He's got all the skills. I mean, he's a good athlete. He can catch the ball. He's got yak threat ability as well. Like, the dude has all the potential to be a very good tight end. And they got some good blockers here with Johnny Munn, Hunter Long. You could still look to add somebody, especially if you want to play a lot of 12 personnel this season, depending on what Liam Cohen and Grant Udinsky want to do, the new OC and obviously new head coach and Liam Cohen. But I think that in general, this is not a huge need. Long, Munt are both under contract heading into next season. Now, they could get cheaper if they wanted to and cut either one. There's no guarantees there, really. Overall, it's just something that's going to depend on what they want to do schematically. My big need is adding another slot weapon, at least more competition in there with Parker Washington. Then we go on to the running back room. You got your 1-2 punch. Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby. Those two guys, very, very good football players. Now, they do need a little more depth in here. So that is my only real need with this scenario, is looking at a 4th, 5th, 6th round running back. Not a high priority, but Etienne is going to a contract year. We shall see if he gets paid or not. In general, it is something I will be looking at adding some more depth in here and improving that room in terms of just depth-wise. It's not like a starter need. And then we go into the quarterback position now. And Trevor Lawrence, I think, is underrated at this point in the NFL. Yes, he has to improve his accuracy over the middle of the football field and get better as a passer over the middle. And also just check downs and layups. Like, sometimes he'll miss easy layups. So that part of his game still needs work. Is he this guy that's going to be an improvising quarterback, either like an ever elite Patrick Mahomes playmaking machine? No, but I still think Trevor Lawrence is a plus starter in the NFL, a 7 to 15 level quarterback that's going to have his ups and downs through his career, right? I think he'll be a top 5 quarterback a couple of seasons throughout his career, but mainly lie in that 7 to 15 range that can get the job done, get you to the playoffs, and win a Super Bowl with the right roster and the right coaching. So that's where I'm at with Trevor Lawrence. No time to panic on him. I really believe that. You bring in Nick Mullins, the familiarity with scheme and things like that makes a lot of sense. He'll get up to speed quickly. John Wolford, an experienced veteran, the know-how. I do think they'll add a quarterback in the draft. Like, that's my gut feeling on this. Maybe they won't. Maybe they're going to rock in with Mullins and Wolford, and that'd be fine. Obviously, Lawrence. But I do think that there's a good chance that they add a quarterback somewhere on day 3 to compete with Wolford to get that 3rd spot, and then maybe there'll be a long-term backup. That's really where I'm at right now. This is not an early need, any stretch. On to the defense side of the football field and the defensive line. And you look at this defensive line, like, their starters off the edge are elite, right? There's no worries about that. They had the most pressures between Trayvon Walker and Josh Allen. They were 1-2 punch wrecking crew machine, whatever you want to call them. Like, they were getting a ton of pressure, but who else is getting pressure on that edge rushing? Even the defensive line in general, they have to add more depth. It is the top need. You can't go into next season with just Yazir Abdullah and also Miles Cole. And even Abdullah maybe moving, a little off-ball linebacker, whatever. Like, they need to add more edge rushers into the room. This is an area where I'm drafting 2 guys, at least if it stays like this. And it would make sense, because if they can get a couple of cheap contracts, you're going to pay Trayvon Walker. At least that's my opinion. You should pay Trayvon Walker. You've got the money to pay him next season, so there's no excuses. Josh Allen's already being paid. Let's go get some cheap, solid rotational depth. And that is my idea in a draft class that is very, very deep. So it's a good time to need some depth at the edge position. And then on the interior of the defensive line, this is setting up to be an easy pick, in my opinion. Mason Graham, sitting at number 5 overall, if he's available, which looks like there's a good possibility of that. I would say it's like 90% unless somebody trades up for him, 95%. And you get a stud like that. You got Eric Armstead, who's going to be moving to the interior this next season. Is going to help them out day 1 right there, in my opinion. He's still got juice in the tank. Devon Hamilton, guys, still hoping he gets fully healthy. Like, he's still trying to recover, I feel like. Mason Smith showed a lot of flashes at the beginning of the season. Jordan Jefferson's nice little explosive run defender. Tyler Lacey, give you a rotational guy as well. Overall, you add in a stud like a Mason Graham, and it would just kind of top off this defensive line and really elevate this group, I feel like. And as I talked about, let's add some more edge depth. This is a big need, right? This defensive line needs depth, and they could use another starter there on that interior. And then we go into the linebacker position, where you got Folasade Oluokun the Hooligan. I love him, and he is going to be this team's leader, and he is this team's leader at that linebacker position. Now, Devin Lloyd, he, still want to see him grow as a coverage guy, but as a run defender, very, very good football player. Ventrell Miller, going to earn a spot here and has the potential to be a lot more involved this next season. So keep an eye on him. Anthony Campolini going to be a new defensive mind for him, and he's going to use Ventrell Miller, and I think he's got a potential to be a very, very sneaky player to watch out for as a breakout candidate this next season. Chad Muma, the mummy. I like Chad Muma as a special teamer and a fourth guy. They could use a little bit of depth, though. They are thin. I don't think this is an early need, but it is something at the end of the draft that they could use for some special teams and more depth. And then on to the cornerback position. This is also another area that sneaky need for this football team. Like, they need to add some more competition into the room. Tyson Campbell should benefit from Anthony Campolini coming into probably more of a cover 2, cover 3 type of scheme, right? That's what they're going to be, I would imagine, that they're rolling with. And at least if you bring some sort of predictive from the Green Bay Packers days for Anthony Campolini and what he could be looking to do. Now he's his own person, right? He's going to do his own scheme, have his own philosophies. But if you do project a little bit, the Packers play a lot of cover 2, a lot of cover 3. They were a very heavy zone defense. They played zone at one of the highest rates in the NFL this last season. So, and with that being said, like, Tyson Campbell's going to benefit from that extensively. Now, Jerry Jones could, look, he's really good in man. Like, he's very much a man cover. He can play in zone, though. I'm not super worried about that. And I do think he can play on the outside. I mean, he doesn't have a ton of experience, but he does have experience going back to Florida State. I thought his best tape was on that slot, but he does have a couple of years of starting experience at the outside position. So I really believe that he can fill into that outside role. Busta Brown in there as a good backup, and he can play if need be for injuries. However, besides that, the depth is definitely thin. So this to me is a 3rd, 4th round. Find some more depth into the room just in case of injuries. They've been a little battered, a little bruised through the years as well. And Jordan Lewis, one of their big free agent signings coming in here, and somebody that sticks into the slot right away on a 3-year contract. Very good slot corner. It is is it an overpay? It's hard to say, right? Slot position is so important in the NFL nowadays. So it's good that they're valuing it, and it is very, very important. And Jordan Lewis had a fantastic season this past year and really was a bright spot for the Cowboys with what they were dealing with injuries and stuff like that. So Lewis steps up and is going to be a really nice addition for this football team. So in general, just adding a little bit more outside cornerback depth, that is really my priority here. And then finally, we're looking at the safety room here. And this is an area that I also think is, even though they brought Eric Murray, and Eric Murray was really good for the Texans this season, so he's going to be penciled in as a starter for this football team. Darnell Savage, I still think that you could look at. He's going into next season under contract, but they could get out of his deal and save $5 million. He's only got like $3 million that is guaranteed going forward on that cap number. So if they wanted to, they could get off of his contract. Antonio Johnson, maybe new scheme, he can get some sort of resurgence in his career. But at the moment, I would say I'm drafting a developmental strong safety somewhere round 3 through round 5 for the future. Like, that to me is a need. And just in case things, need to add, things go bad or whatever. Anthony Wingard is a good player and he can play for this football team. Absolutely. However, as I talk about, I want to find a developmental strong safety. It is something we can look at. This team will play plenty of one high coverage shells and they'll mix up their coverage looks. So I think adding in a guy that can play in the box, can play up top, that will be huge for this football team. Okay, before we get into the mock draft, I got to give you a heads up. This pick is going to be so shocking. You're going to be like, what? No, I'm joking. It's Mason Graham. And if you're doing your mock drafts, I'm sure this is one of those that just seems like it's most likely to happen. Mason Graham to the Jaguars, and for good reason. Mason Graham, top tier prospect that comes in right away as an immediate impact, knows how to use his hands. He's a technician through and through, can be a pass rusher as well. He's got explosiveness. Yeah, he's not the best athlete. He doesn't have the longest arms. He can get pushed back at times. However, just such a good prospect. I cannot pass up on Mason Graham. Getting him into that defense line just adds that young stud. You got Mason Smith to develop with Jordan Jefferson. Like, you got some young guys out there. Now you go add in this monster in the middle. Love it, man. That's one of, hey, hopefully I love it because I'm making these mock draft picks. But you be the undetermined, the unbiased opinion on that. Let me know. But now we go on to Jalen Noel. Sounds like a Christmas carol. But maybe you got Christmas rolling here in Jacksonville with adding another weapon and somebody that competes in the slot with Parker Washington, right? He's got good speed, good route running ability, going to be able to create and make plays in this offense, exactly what they need, another weapon. I want to make sure we add in as much competition as possible. We go on to David Walker, the edge rusher from Central Arkansas. Undersized, very much on the shorter arms portion. You say, well, smaller competition, how does that translate to the next level? I don't care. He's one of the most dominant rushers in all of college football. I don't care if you're talking FBS or FBS. He makes plays. He is a full in a china shop in terms of just barreling over offensive linemen. He will knock you with his speed to power. He can bend the edge, and he's got a pass rush tool belt to his game. Yes, run defense. There's going to be a little concern with that frame. Will he be able to block shed off of tackles consistently? Probably not. But you know what? They've got Walker. They've got Hines Allen. He's going to be a rotational pass rusher. Exactly what they need. And then we go on to our next third round pick. Oh, did somebody say double dip the edge? Double dip the edge? Oh, okay. Thanks for telling me. But got Kyle Kennard. And you're like, you're talking to yourself over here? I know, I'm talking to myself, but that's part of it. He got Kyle Kennard, edge rusher from South Carolina. Let's add another bendy pass rusher. I mean, he's not the most bendy. I'd say that David Walker's a little bit more bendy, but Kyle Kennard also can bend the edge, and he's more of a speed rusher type. He does need to get better with his leverage. I do think he gets a little high upright that can lose his power. He needs to work on that speed to power a little bit more. And he also needs to refine his tool belt a little bit more as well. He kind of has this go-to cross chop, which works. And it gets to the pass or the quarterback, the passer, quarterback, whatever you want to call it. But yes, he can definitely get to the quarterback and add some more nuance to his game over the time as a developmental third, fourth edge rusher. I'm cool with it, right? He's going to give him some more balance, some more edge rushing presence there, and more speed. And then we go on to Jonas Sanker from Virginia, and he's going to be a developmental defensive back safety that can play in the box. He's so good in the box, not just as a coverage player, as a run defender. He can make plays. I mean, he can go into man-to-man. He absolutely can. He's got the athleticism to do that. He showed that off of the Senior Bowl as well. So he can line up and play big nickel if you need him to, especially early on in his career. So he, to me, is just going to give him an upgrade in the room right now as that backup safety in that strong safety position. He absolutely can play in the back end too as a two-high guy, has enough range to do that. So want to make sure we add in some help into that safety room for the future. And thinking about the future, always important, especially these mid-round picks. Got to start developing some guys. Then we go on to Zy Alexander from LSU, cornerback. And, you know, those La Tech cornerbacks, yeah, they can develop, man. And we get a guy who has the zone instincts, especially cover 2, cover 3. I think that's really where he's going to make his bread and butter. And with his ability to read and react, like he's really good in that department, right? He's got some very good play rec skills. He just kind of has that understanding, that nuance. Okay, I got a break on this route. I see an out route coming in there or a little curl route. He makes plays. He's quick to trigger and has all the ability to do that. He's not an elite athlete. Okay, let's just get it real. And that's fine. Like for this scheme and what Anthony Campolini's going to be wanting to do, more than likely, let's just make a projection. Maybe he wants to play more man coverage. Once again, that's something we'll have to find out. For right now, though, knowing what I know and what I've seen, you know, with him going back to the Green Bay Packers, I think that they may want to play more zone coverage heavy defense. And Zy Alexander, I think, would fit that really, really well. And he's also strong in run defense, too. He's got good ability to press jam and play that run game and get off blocks. On to round number 5. We're going Kyle Monangai, Rutgers running back. Hey, why not add another running back in here? Kyle Monangai, very underrated football player and somebody that just comes in with his vision. I think he's got very solid vision coming from that Rutgers zone defense or zone offense, have heavy scheme. And with Grant Udinsky, going to probably do very much similar coming back, you know, with the Kubiak the Kubiak background, you know, going last year with the Vikings, right? Like they're gonna play plenty of zone. I mean, they'll mix it up, I'm sure. Liam Cohen's mixed it up through his career. I'm not like overly worried about that. And Monangai's a tough runner, man. He's got some good contact balance, despite maybe the smaller size. He can run, man. He's got a quick little jump cut and can elude defenders. And going to be at least a good third running back, especially if they don't bring back Travis Etienne. I think Monangai could step into that number 2 role next year very, very easily. Then we go on to Jackson Slater, Sacramento State. And he's a guy that kind of came out of the combine. I was very curious to watch him. Solid athlete, right? And I do think going back to the film, you know, it may struggle with some of the second level stuff and sustaining ability. He's going to have to get better grip strength, but he's got a lot of tools to work with, right? He's got enough size profile, 6'3", 311. He's got athleticism, just over a 5.01, and the 10-yard split was good. Like all the numbers were good. He is a guy that could be a really good developmental guy, and he's got some power to him as well. He's got some strike ability. So somebody in the later rounds that can develop into a center or a guard. Like I think he could be either way, and he took snaps at both. So get some more depth on the interior. Then we go on to Brady Cook, Missouri quarterback. Okay, let me explain this with Brady Cook because you might be saying, what? Brady Cook was terrible this season. Okay, the accuracy was rough, and he took a major step back, but this guy was playing through some serious injuries. So let's be fair with Brady Cook. The guy, when healthy, is a really good athlete. He showed that, right, at the, with his testing. 4.5, all the agility drill, like everything was good. He's broad jump, vertical, like it was top of the charts, I believe. Like he had percentile was very, very good. And it shows on film as well. He can move. And if you're talking about a guy that can kind of do a little pocket presence stuff, like he's got that. I think he is a solid processor as well. I mean, especially watching the tape in the summer. I've not watched tons of just strictly Brady Cook tape this season. I did a full evaluation of him in the summer. I thought his processing skills were very good. Yes, they took a bit of a step back, and his anticipation may not be the greatest. However, he's got the arm talent. I'll tell you that right now. He can make all the throws, so he's a good developmental backup. And in the 6th round, here at the end of the 6th round, he certainly has the traits to compete for that third quarterback spot. Like, that's the way I'm looking at it here. It could be a long-term backup for them. Final pick of the draft, Chandler Martin from Memphis, linebacker. That gives you special teams ability. Like, he's a very good athlete. They can play the run as well. Undersized, so he's going to have some limitations there. I don't know if he is the most physical guy either to deal with, like, one-on-one coverage abilities. But that's okay. Like, they've got their linebacking core right now with Ventrell Miller, Folasado Luwakan, and Devin Lloyd, and Chad Muma. He's going to be that 5th guy that comes in as a special teamer, can develop, see what you have. But if nothing else, I do think he'll be a very good special teamer. And that's really what I'm looking for at the end of the draft. Guys that can contribute right away in some phase of the football game. Well, that's going to do it here for the draft. Let me know what you think. Do you agree or do you disagree? What would you do differently? Obviously, when it comes to the draft, there's so many different ways that they could go about things. It depends on who's on the board. This is just a simulation. I know it's the Matrix out there. It's not the Matrix. I guess I didn't take the blue pill, or what is it, the red pill? I'm thinking now, but I think it was the blue pill. But when you look at this, I just wanted to say, in terms of what do they need to do, I think they need to add more competition to the wide receiving room. I think that's a day 2 need. Tight end could be something they looked at. It's not a high priority for me, but in terms of the receiving room, I'm mainly looking at adding another weapon to compete with Parker Washington. Now, in this case scenario, I have Jalen Noel listed as a starter. Maybe Washington would be the starter day 1. Noel would compete, and then you got the best man to win there. And then offensive line, just mainly looking to add some more depth on the interior. Slater could also play center for them just in case. Just want to make sure we add in a little bit more depth because the depth is a little thin. Cooper Hodges hopefully gets fully healthy. You got Luke Fortner for one more season, so you got that. But you want to make sure we add in some more help there. Running back, do want to add in a 3rd running back. I think that's important. 3rd, 4th running back, and then quarterback. That's something you don't have to draft. I just think that, I have a feeling that they're going to try to draft one more quarterback to at least compete with John Wall for going into camp. At least pick up a UDFA. Like, that's my minimum threshold on that. And then defensively, here's where more of my top priorities lie, right? Their defense, they got to improve it, right? I mean, so hopefully we did that. Hopefully, right? We add in Mason Graham, day 1 impact. I mean, I got him listed as a starter. Devon Hamilton, it allows him to be a rotational player, maybe continue to get fully healthy and not have to play so many snaps. He can be an early down run defender for this football team. Mason Smith continue to develop. And our Eric Armstead can be a starter on that interior. And then look at the edge room, man. You got depth. That's what I'm talking about. You keep Walker and Allen healthy, right? That's so important. Also, I need to put Josh Hines Allen. Pardon me on that. So there's a little bit of, I need to make sure that's corrected. But when you look at this edge room, now it allows where it's like, okay, maybe Trevon Walker and Josh Allen aren't doing all the work. You can have guys who can be rotational players and keep those guys healthy and fresh through the season. That's also very important. So Kyle Kennard, David Walker would be excellent. Just some sort of combination of edge rushers would be nice. And then we go into the cornerback safety room. These are both areas I think round 3, round 4 that they can hit for depth and for future need, right? That's really what I'm looking for with Jonas Sanker, Zy Alexander. That's why we added a couple of those guys in linebacker. That's just a depth special teams, adding a 5th, 6th guy, UDFA, late round picks. That's really where we're looking at it with the linebacker position. So that's going to do it here for the Jaguars and Duval. And I hope you guys have a really good day.